Hello, everyone. Welcome to a little bonus podcast for 20th Century Boy. Today I'm joined by producer Pat. Hello, producer Pat. Thank you for being here.
Hello, boss Mike.
Yes, that is me. No other words to describe me. Today, we are doing a full spoiler review of Spider-Man No Way Home. We both saw the movie, and I think we both came out of it just wanting to talk about it so much. And obviously everyone wants to talk about Spider-Man, but for obvious reasons, people don't want to spoil it. So we thought, no spoilers on the main pod, but if you did see it and want to hear people talk about it, this is where we're going to talk all spoilers on the movie, what we thought, everything about it. Because, I don't know about you, Pat, but probably my favorite movie of the year.
I'm probably going to have to agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess let's just start with a little background on our love of what we think about generally of all the Spider-Man movies and Spider-Man the character. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, shit, I've been a big fan since, obviously, the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi movies were, my introduction. I remember I had a friend as a kid, and he had, all the toys. I remember we went to go see Spider-Man 2 together when we were 4 years old in cinemas.
Wow.
Yeah, great experience.
Scary movie, because, Doc Ock in that I used to be so scared of, and I would have been, 10. So, yeah, so you've seen... I'm assuming you've seen every Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Raimi trilogy, and then Into the Spider-Verse, and of course, Homecoming and Far From Home.
Yeah, with the exception of Venom 2, if you want to count that, I've seen every Spider-Man movie in cinemas since Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess this was such a hotly anticipated film, both for the MCU and just for the character in general. Maybe we just get it out of the way and say, as we all know, amazing feat that Toby and Andrew both return as Spider-Man in this film, which may have been the worst kept secret. I guess it got to a point where the trailers revealed, Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, the Raimi Spider-Man 2 is back.
Yeah.
I think Green Goblin was in one of the trailers, Willem Dafoe's Goblin.
Yeah. In the first trailer, you heard his laugh and you saw a pumpkin bomb. And then in the second one, they just showed his... aside from clips of him and the glider, it was just him talking Peter, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm pretty sure Sandman and Electro pop up in the trailer as well.
Yeah, Sandman, Electro, and Lizard.
Yeah, cool. So I guess we knew that... I think when you see... Alfred Molina's Doc Ock in the trailer, he was the key, because I feel of the movies, to me, he's the most iconic villain. Would you say it's Goblin or?
I don't know. I feel you could debate that, but for me anyway, because Spider-Man 2 is that defining film for me out of not just seeing it, but obviously being in that world, seeing it on posters, on toys, getting the Lego sets as a kid. Doc Ock was always my number one.
And I rewatched Spider-Man 2 recently. I genuinely think that's one of the best superhero movies ever
easily
made. That train sequence at the end of Spider-Man 2 is just, it's so good. In all accounts, when the people of New York try to protect Spider-Man. Yeah. And he's slowing down the train and everything like that. Amazing sequence. And I love Toby as Spider-Man. So I feel you saw that they were going to be in it, but they were never going to give away that was the surprise that Toby and Andrew do pop up in the movie, which we'll talk more about later. But I just feel we just had to address it straight away.
Yeah.
And I guess what I thought was awesome about, let's what overall thoughts on the movie? Let's go overall thoughts.
Yeah. So I saw it twice. Saw it opening day at IMAX, and then I saw it on the weekend, just in a normal cinema. And first time I saw it, the whole time I was just loving it. There was very little for me to hate. But the second time, I kind of I don't think there's anything I still really dislike about this movie. Small nitpicks and whatnot, you know what I mean? But more personal stuff rather than, that's genuinely bad. But I thought the movie throughout was great. I love his the kind of the realization and the growth and the learning for Tom Spider-Man, especially towards the end of the movie.
And I think this is less it's a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, but it feels rather than a continuation of the MCU story, which it is in a way, it does feel more like a celebration of the legacy of the Spider-Man
100%,
character.
yeah.
Because, Doctor Strange is in it. It's in that world, but it doesn't necessarily expand the story too much heading into it. But I think, to me, the best part about it is, like, what I respect so much about Marvel for this movie is, so I think within probably 20 minutes, the villains start appearing. Doc Ock appears, Lizard appears, Green Goblin appears. Within about 20 minutes. And then probably only maybe an hour into the movie do we finally get that scene where Andrew and Toby both pop up, which is when Ned and MJ are... Ned basically gets Doctor Strange magic powers, and he's trying to channel, like, find Peter Parker. He opens up a portal and you can see Spider-Man. Yeah. And then I think it's that moment where the Spider-Man runs through the portal and you realize he's a little bit too tall to be Tom Holland. Is that kind of what you thought?
Like, for me, especially like seeing on like a really big screen too, because like I think everyone in the cinema could tell. Yeah. Like as soon as you turned around, you saw the lenses. Everyone's like, oh, like that's him. But then as soon as like you see him, he's like waving, like you're like, yeah, that's him. And then
as in you thought it was Tom, or you thought?
Sorry, I thought it was Andrew.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay. Did you recognize the suit as Andrew's suit? Oh, okay. Because I didn't. But when I saw him come through, I'm like, he's too tall. It's definitely not Toby. It's definitely not Tom Holland. Yeah. And then, he comes through, he pulls the Spider-Man mask off. It's Andrew Garfield. Yeah. And I will say that this point of this movie going experience, I also saw it in extreme screen, not quite IMAX, but big screen.
Hey, it's second place is all right sometimes.
Yeah, it is. But I've never been in a cinema experience where the crowd responded so much. How was yours? Yeah.
Oh my God, mine was crazy because it was just super fans. And like after every cameo or appearance, it was just pure like screaming. Like Matt Murdock got a massive cheer. Did that get a massive cheer for you?
Daredevil?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we didn't even mention that. So that's another little cameo. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah. So couple years ago, Marvel struck a deal with Netflix to do, was it like 4 or 5 shows?
So there was Daredevil, Jessica Jones,
Punisher, Iron Fist, and then the Defenders with all those guys together. Yeah.
And it was always up in the air whether they were part of the MCU.
Yeah, because like I didn't watch the shows, but I know that like they referenced events in the MCU, like the Avengers had a presence. But yeah, now that like Charlie Cox is back, it's like, oh, like is it canon or is it like...
So Charlie Cox reprises his role as Daredevil from the Netflix movies in this, which he got a huge cheer. That was awesome. Yeah. Because that was another unexpected one.
Yeah, that was a big rumor for a long time because like I consumed nothing but like rumors like until maybe like a month or two before the movie came out. I thought, okay, now I have to stop. Like because I'm gonna get something spoiled. Yeah. But yeah, like that got a big cheer. Like every villain. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll get into this a bit more. Why I think the crowd was so loud, but like. The only other... I mean, Avengers Endgame had a fair bit of that, but there were no big prizes in that movie. And then Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, maybe you were... I don't know, did you see that? I did, yeah. I went to the premiere, and that was like... It was big, but I don't think it was as big as... The reactions were as big. Like, people were crying in the cinema for that, because it's like there's some sad moments, but generally speaking, there weren't like applause moments or anything like that. Yeah. But so... as soon as Andrew takes the mask off, eruption. Yeah, of applause.
I could barely hear what they were saying.
Yeah, same.
Because I thought, I'll go on the weekend. It won't be anywhere near as bad. They were still cheering and screaming.
Yeah, and it was drowning out the dialogue. And I was kind of like, I want to get amongst this, but I also want to hear what they're saying in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so Andrew was great. I thought, or then maybe we continue with that scene, and then they're trying to, again, they're like, well, that's not our Peter Parker. Let's find the Peter Parker. Bam, new portal. And then Tobey Maguire, sans Spider-Man costume. So he's just in casual clothes, appears, waves. Classic awkward Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And he looks so old now as well.
Yeah. Like, I mean, look, dude's almost 50. Oh,
is he really?
He's 46, so not almost 50.
No, that's almost 50.
Yeah. I mean, basically. But yeah, like, I mean, he doesn't look that old though. But like, it's definitely... He just looks like a more mature Peter Parker, because I think it just seemed like Toby, like, obviously because of his age, they kind of had to imply or make it like, okay, he's a matured Spider-Man.
And I really liked that.
Yeah.
Because it suggested that he's continued to be Spider-Man this whole time, and he felt more mature. Like, he was still Toby's Spider-Man, but like an older version and more... he felt like the more experienced Spider-Man, whereas Andrew did feel very much like Andrew from his movies. Like, he didn't feel like he was older. He looked exactly the same to me.
Basically, yeah. And like, Andrews felt a bit more, well, not felt more lost, but like he was talking, like, oh, like I struggle, I couldn't hold back my punches.
Yeah. Like, we'll get to that in a sec. So this, and then when, I think, great call, Andrew's the first one, huge eruption, and then Toby's coming.
Yeah.
Like, I think it does make sense for Toby to be the bigger reveal. Like, no shade against Andrew, who, like, it was an awesome reveal, but then I think Toby is very much like, a lot of people are like, Toby is Spider-Man.
Yeah, especially because, like, I won't go on this for too long, but like a lot of people were really bitter towards Andrew, like, leading up, because I remember, like, because I was reading on Twitter, like, people being like, oh, bring back, make Amazing Spider-Man 3, and everyone was saying, where were you in 2014 when you were like shitbagging Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
And like, not a great film. I'm not really defending that even to this day.
I don't think it's as bad as people say. Like, again, I think people really get angry in the moment, and then you're rewatching, like it's fine. It's not terrible.
Oh, there's still stuff I hate about it, but like, there's stuff that there's still some great stuff about it.
Harry Osborn in that is woeful. It's some of the worst acting ever. And but I actually, I know what you mean, but and we'll get to this as well, but I watched it recently and I did a Letterboxd review, and spoilers for a movie that came out in 2014, but Gwen Stacy dies at the end. Spider-Man can't save her. And I actually part of me really liked seeing Spider-Man fail. Like, not in a sadistic way,
but
just
but like a learning curve.
Yeah, because, it's all well and good if our favorite superhero always saves the day and always wins. And then it was just like, oh, he failed. He didn't save her, and that affects him and how he continues. And then the end of that movie, he's fighting Rhino, and it just ends abruptly there.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that he came back, and that is touched upon a bit later. But so huge, Toby comes. How did the cinema respond for you when Toby appeared?
Oh, look, I mean, I can't really say if like one or the other got more cheer, but like I think the sense of and the weight of Toby's reveal kind of had a bit bigger of an impact of like the feeling of like the audience.
Yeah,
because I mean, obviously Toby was like, he kickstarted like the whole Spider-Man on screen thing, and so obviously it naturally has more weight, and older fans too.
I would argue that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man kickstarted what the MCU would become.
I mean, yeah, basically.
Like, that was when it was like, because it was one of the earliest, not the earliest superhero movies. There were definitely superhero movies all through the 1900s or whatever. Like, since the birth of movies, there was, but this was like the first blockbuster superhero movie that was really good. And then Spider-Man 2 was better than Spider-Man 1. And it was like, this is what a superhero movie could be. But yeah, continue.
Yeah. No, 100% agree, man. Especially because, like, the decade before that, what'd you have? Like, Blade?
Yeah.
And that was like... Yeah. It felt more of like an action movie than like a superhero movie. But yeah, no, like, Spider-Man probably like modernized it and like kind of was like, okay, this is the structure. This is the formula. And
Iron Man, the first MCU, came out the year after Spider-Man 3, interestingly. So that's just a little bit. But yeah, when Tobey appeared, I loved it. Like, I fucking love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And when he just shows up so nonchalantly and waves at them and he goes, hi. Hello. Yeah. It was just so cool seeing him. Yeah. He hasn't really been in that many movies either. Like,
his last credit was The Boss Baby.
And then he was in The Great Gatsby with Leo, and he was pretty, like, I actually think he's a really good actor. But yeah, just, I don't know, just that moment. And then, it was like this thing of, okay, it's happening. We're here now. And then, like, knowing what are we going to get now? Because they're all going to interact and stuff. Now, one thing that I wanted to say is that the thing I respect most about Marvel in this movie is they could have had the whole marketing campaign around this fact.
Easily.
And, that would have been so good. Gotten so many people in. But the fact that they didn't, in any of the marketing, reveal that Tobey and Andrew were going to be in it, which any other franchise would have capitalized on something like that. You've seen it with Star Wars, right? first trailer for Star Wars 7, Han Solo and Chewie appear in the back.
Yeah.
Would it have been, I reckon it would have been so much better if it's like, hey, it's Star Wars Episode 7, it's just in the future, bam, midway through the movie, we see Han and Chewie, surprise.
Yeah.
But they ruined it in the trailer, so it wasn't a surprise. Same with, I guess the surprise in that was Luke. We didn't know Luke would appear at the end of that, but I still think they could have not relied on that for the marketing, right? Take the newest trailer for Flashpoint DC.
Yeah.
Ends with the reveal that Michael Keaton's Batman is going to be in that movie. Again, great marketing. People are going to see it. But to me, that says we don't trust this brand enough to not have to market a legacy character or a nostalgia blast, right? Whereas Marvel's going, we back the MCU, we back Tom Holland as Spider-Man, we believe people are going to see this movie regardless because we trust it, we trust our brand, we trust the movie we've made, and we're not gonna put it out there that the biggest thing about, we're not gonna basically use the biggest part about this movie as a selling point.
Yeah.
And it still cleans up at the box office. People still go see it.
Not to interrupt you, but No Way Home at the moment has made just over 600 million worldwide. And it's the third highest grossing movie, not of the year, but the highest grossing Western movie of the year. Because the highest grossing movie, we haven't gotten like a movie that's made over $1 billion since 2019.
Was that Endgame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 billion, whatever it was. But the highest earning movie of the year is like an international film, and it's I think it's made 900
Probably
million.
a Chinese film.
Yeah.
Lots of Chinese films are now grossing heaps because there's such a huge audience for them.
Yeah.
And that's why so many like American movies are trying to incorporate like Chinese stuff because they want to sell to the Chinese audience. But yeah, I mean, like the fact that it will hit $1 billion. It'll absolutely hit $1 billion at least. But yeah, I just think, you know, they could have all three of the Spider-Mans on buses and billboards and trailers and be like, look, come and see everyone. But it's like, no, we're not doing that because this is just Spider-Man with Tom Holland, and come and see it and you might get a surprise. And like, I just love that they backed themselves like that and didn't ruin it, because then everyone was speculating anyway. And then everyone like the reason I say it's like the worst kept secret is because like we all knew it was going to happen, but we didn't see them, right? So that moment in the cinema where they appear is that moment where you're like, oh, they're here. It's not like I've seen it in the trailer, so I'm just waiting for that moment. Yeah. You don't know when it's going to come, and it's like this huge dopamine blast when it happens.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Respected that so much from Marvel. I thought it was just so good.
And I think we got to talk about like, just before the battle, that like the conversation between all three Spideys and like the casual, like my back, like that stuff. Also,
lots of callbacks and stuff. Yeah.
I got to say this, the thing I loved the most about that was they're all comparing, I fought this villain, I went to space, and Andrew's like, I'm so lame compared to you guys. And Toby's like, what?
You're not lame.
He's like, you're amazing. Like, what's this negative talk? You're amazing. I felt like,
I didn't even realize because he's the amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, not just that, but it also felt like it was like him trying to, because like so many people like would shit talk Andrew Spider-Man for years, and that was them trying to say like, shut up nerds, this guy was awesome, it's not his fault.
I love that. Yeah. So let's go on to like the interactions between the three Spideys learning about each other, because there's a lot of comedy in that. Yeah. A lot of fun, but we also learn a lot about what happened to Raimi's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man post their movies. So we learn that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, he opens up a bit and talks about how Gwen Stacy's death affected him. And like they're quite emotional moments. So he mentions that a lot. And then Tobey Maguire talks about MJ and how they've made it work. And you find out there's like a happy ending there where they're together now in their timeline. Yeah, there was a rumor going along for a while that the actress Kirsten Dunst, that she was going to appear and like they were going to have a kid together. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much implied. Yeah, and I really liked that because because everyone's like, oh, Spider-Man 4, The Amazing Spider-Man 3, and it kind of gave you that closure of what happened to them. And and then what else stood out to you in terms of the interactions between the Spideys?
I mean, like I love the whole like the fact that they touched on it more than once with like, you know, Toby being the only one who has like organic webs,
Yeah.
right? And
So obviously Andrew and Tom's Spider-Man, they have web shooters, so they create their webs.
Yeah.
Whereas I actually prefer Toby's because he actually has the webs inside his like bloodstream.
Yeah.
And they're coming out of his body.
like, wouldn't it make sense? Like if you got bitten by like a radioactive spider, you'd get that ability.
Yeah. Because what I don't like is that means like theoretically anyone could have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe like the whole thing was like, oh, like Peter's such a gifted like person that he
invent
made
it.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I think it definitely like, and as to his character, but I don't think we necessarily need to have that.
No.
Yeah.
But I loved Toby, like they're trying to grill him on it. They're like, oh, we just don't get it. So they just come out of you? Like where else do they come out of? And he's like, hey, like I don't want to talk about it. Like it's like breathing. Like I just breathe, I just make webs. And I thought the way Toby like delivered it all, like he still is, it's like he just picked up right where he was with the character and like just fell straight into it. Yeah, I loved that. And then Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3.
Yeah, Peter 3.
Yeah.
That was so good. Because like you couldn't say, oh, Toby Andrew. You can say Raimi Webb.
Exactly, because part of me was like going, just call them Toby, Andrew, and Tom. And then I was like, oh wait, they don't know that in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, so Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. That was really funny. And then what else was there in terms? Oh, there was a lot of like just okay, no, I'm blanking.
Well then I'll pick up. I think the like not just the villains with how they were like early in the, I think we're probably talking more about towards the end now, right?
Yeah.
Like I think look, I'll start with this. Jamie Foxx and Andrew together, like after like, you know, Electro loses his powers.
Yes.
And then he's like, you know, like, and it was really cool seeing Andrew saying like, man, like I never saw you as a nobody. I always cared for you, man.
Yeah.
And then like, and that little bit was like, man, you know, you helped poor people. You're from the Bronx. I've thought you would have been black. And Andrew's like, oh, I'm sorry, man.
And then he's like, there must be a black Spider-Man out there.
And Andrew's going like,
you know, implying Miles Morales, which I really hope Miles pops up in the MCU.
I mean, surely.
Maybe like once Tom's like, because I feel like they're building Tom Holland up to kind of be maybe the leader of the Avengers at some point. So I'd love if a new Spidey comes in to work with him then.
Yeah,
and then,
definitely.
So that would be awesome. Like I'm sure Miles will pop up. Like he's been in the Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
He's
Into the
had Into the Spider-Verse.
Like it was one thing like 5 years ago where it's like, you know, like only comic nerds knew him, but now that like
he's
so prevalent.
Yeah, and what I love about
And
it
a great
is
character.
one of my cousins who's got like a 6-year-old son, she posted a photo of him on Facebook, and it was like some school activity they did, and it was, what do I want to be when I grow up? And he had written Miles Morales,
Wow.
which I thought was so cool for representation that like this
Yeah.
little white kid from Australia was looking up to a black superhero. Like I just
Yeah.
thought, and then I was like, this is why we need like characters like Miles Morales and
Yeah.
Black Panther and people like Shang-Chi. And that's again like a testament to what Marvel is achieving, like in terms of diversity and representation and stuff. Like I genuinely really like that.
Yeah, same. Like it's one thing when like nerds like, oh, forced representation, you know what I mean? But like,
But it doesn't feel like Miles to me has never felt forced in any way.
no.
But yeah.
And it's like there's obviously going to be multiple interpretations of character. It's like with anything, not just with that. If you think about it, like we've gotten like what, like over 10 generations of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've got like multiple. I know this is not in the same ballpark, but we've got like
it kind of is. They're comic book characters.
Yeah, and so like it makes sense that like, you know, if you're doing like another interpretation, like obviously Miles isn't like another Peter Parker. He's not like a black Peter Parker or anything, but like, you know,
he's his own character.
Yeah.
He's got his own storylines. Like, yeah, and I think that was a really cool interaction. And then there's little nods, like Norman Osborn says, "I'm something of a scientist myself."
That was a great callback.
He says in Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
And when I actually really liked the moments where Doc Ock and Toby face each other for the first time, and Toby takes his mask off and he's like, "How have you been? You're all grown up." And Toby's like, "I'm trying to do better," which he also said to Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. He says, because in Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock is like, "I've heard you're really lazy," and Toby's like, "I'm trying to do better." So that was another.
God, that's true. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that was another callback that I probably wouldn't have picked up if I didn't watch Spider-Man 2 the day before I saw No Way Home.
Yeah, I wish I did that. Because I saw this with my partner, and we were like, over like the last few months, we were going through like the MCU slowly.
Yeah.
But like, we had such little time before this came out. I said, okay, because we got up to Avengers 2. I said, okay, we're just going to do Civil War, we're going to do Homecoming, we're going to do Infinity War, Endgame, and we didn't end up watching Far From Home.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, they're long movies.
Yeah.
So, and then I think for me, probably the greatest callback moment, and probably for most people, was Zendaya is falling off
my
the
God,
Statue
that
of
was
Liberty.
perfect.
And people predicted this is what was going to happen, but Andrew Garfield ends up saving her. Basically, it's the exact same way Gwen Stacy died in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
So Andrew Garfield catches her instead of her dying, and he says to her, and the acting was so good. You felt every part of this, and he says to her, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah." And then she says, "Are you okay?" And he's like tearing up because he's remembering what happened to Gwen. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I nearly cried a few times in this movie, and that was like pretty much when a tear was coming out of my eye because it was so perfect.
I read something that I thought was really cool, and someone had said like the reason Andrew was able to catch MJ was probably because like he'd thought about the moment of like what he could have done differently for Gwen like so many times in his head,
over and over in his head. Yeah. So and it's interesting because Tom Holland's Spider-Man does jump down to get her, but then I think the Goblin pushes him out of the way, and then Andrew just jumps and grabs her. And I just thought, you know, like I know all the people complaining about this film are the people who were like, oh, it's just nostalgia baiting. It's all just fan service. But it's like, but what did you want from this movie? Like that's why we're seeing it, because we care about these characters and we do want to see what happens to their story. So to all those people, I'm just like, fuck off.
Yeah, shut up.
Like you're going to see a Marvel Spider-Man movie. Like what do you... It's not supposed to be what these film buff nerds want them to be. Like, it's not supposed to be this amazing... Like, it is amazing if you're a fan of Spider-Man and Marvel, which... Like, all these people going, no, it's just pure fan service. Like, yeah, that's why it's good. That's why we like it. Like, I don't know. That just irritated me. And that was the perfect fan service moment. And then the other thing was the very end when Tom... is basically, it's Green Goblin at the end that he's going to kill. Yeah. Cause spoilers again, Aunt May dies. Yeah. Which is really sad. And that's another super sad moment.
But
in the
strong
movie.
moment for the character though.
A necessary moment for the character. And what I really love about it, and again, it's nostalgia baiting, but Aunt May before she dies says, with great power comes great responsibility. And I like that because like, I just like that, to me, it makes sense in universe that that happened in Toby's universe, and then it would also happen in Tom's universe as well, that the universes like parallel with each other a little bit. Yeah. Like I really like that. And then the one thing I think, so you know, Toby is so angry at Goblin that he's gonna kill him. Yeah. And sorry, Tom is really angry, he's gonna kill him. And then Tobey Maguire comes and blocks him from killing him, and Toby's just looking at him sternly because he's had that discussion of like, revenge is not the thing. And Toby says, does Toby say to him, with great power comes great responsibility as well?
Oh, yeah, because it's Tom who says it, like, with great power, and then it's Toby who finishes it, yeah.
Yeah, comes great responsibility, yeah. And then, but when he's kind of making a barrier between Tom and Goblin to stop Tom from killing Goblin, I thought Toby was going to say, with great power comes great responsibility, but he didn't. But, like, I mean... You can't have everything you want. Yeah. But I thought that was a perfect moment for it.
Yeah, and even him getting like stabbed by Goblin afterwards, and him be like, "I'm okay, I've been stabbed before."
I was so worried he was gonna die.
Same.
I was like, "Oh no, they're killing off Toby's Spider-Man. Yeah. What the hell?" But so, what was the my back thing?
So in Spider-Man 2,
yes, I remember
when he's like testing his powers out again. It's like, "Woohoo, I'm back!"
Yeah,
yeah, and then he falls off like a building, and he lands on these cars, and he gets like, oh, my back cracks. Yeah. So I think it was a bit of a callback to that.
Because he says my back's really sore, doesn't he, at the end?
Yeah, basically. And also, apparently behind the scenes, the my back thing was also a joke because Toby had
I've heard this.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Toby had like a really bad back injury, like just before the shooting of Spider-Man 2. And there were conversations that they were going to get someone else to play Spider-Man.
And it was going to be Jake Gyllenhaal.
It was going to be Jake
ended up
Gyllenhaal.
being Mysterio.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that, like, hang on, quick sidetrack. Could you imagine if that actually happened? Like, because there would have been like a Spider-Man trilogy with like inconsistent actors.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and then if they went on to do a third one, it's like Toby can't be like, oh, I'm fine now. Like they have to keep doing it with.
It would have just been a new continuity, probably.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know.
That would have been so weird.
But yeah, so Toby was complaining about his back, and they wrote it in as a joke because
Yeah.
apparently he was saying, "I need heaps more money because it's impacting my health."
Yeah,
and I'm gonna leave. And then they're like, "All right, well, we'll just get Jake Gyllenhaal to do it." And then he was like, "All right, I'll do it." And then they wrote that in as a joke. But yeah, I really like that as well. And then, yeah, just. I mean, in terms of MCU stuff, like Doctor Strange was awesome as always. Like I thought him and Peter Parker together were really good. Did you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because like with the MCU Spidey, like he's always seemed to have like kind of mentor. You know, Iron Man the first one, Nick Fury in the second one. Makes sense that they get Doctor Strange.
But it was like a bit more of like a disciplinary, like not as much as Iron Man was a mentor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, as much as like a hey, I'm around. Oh, you fucked up. I'm taking your suit.
Yeah. Also, we haven't mentioned this, but when Tom says I'm in the Avengers, and then Toby's like, "Oh, that's awesome," and Andrew's like, "What is that? A band? Are you in a band?"
Which like heavily implies that like those other characters like don't exist at all from their universes. They come from like Spider-Man only universes.
Yeah, and I like that. So like it implies like in Toby's universe there is no Iron Man, there's no Hulk, but in
Oh, sorry, not to cut you off, but do you remember that little throwaway joke from the second one where they like
Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
Perfect, but it's taken.
Yeah.
And like
so it implies that there is a Doctor Strange.
But probably not the Doctor Strange.
But it could be some form.
Or
of
maybe
him.
the Stephen Strange in that universe is still just a doctor, never became a
he's
wizard.
just and I like that because in Tobey Maguire's universe, Kurt Connors is his professor, but he's just a good guy. Whereas in Andrew's universe, Kurt Connors is the lizard. He becomes the lizard and becomes a villain. And I really like that. One omission is, and I get why, but Eddie Brock from Tobey's universe from Spider-Man 3 doesn't pop up here.
I would have liked to see that.
I mean, by the account of the story, which is that all the people who knew Peter was Spider-Man rifted into the universe, then he should have been there.
Yeah, like logically, he should have been there.
Topher Grace's Eddie Brock is
which I know like a lot of people like, you know, ragged on him. Like obviously,
I thought he was cool.
Yeah, like I kind of felt like with Topher Grace, and like this isn't like a diss him at all. I love like That 70s Show is like my favorite show of all time. Yeah, like but he kind of felt like he was kind of doing like similar. He was acting similarly to what he was on the show. Like
Who is his character again in That 70s Show?
So he's the main character, Eric Foreman, who's the kid of Kitty and Red, who you know where the house is, the main location.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And like he was very similar to that. Maybe that's just because like I just watched so much fucking like That 70s Show. But
sure.
But no, like logically he should have been in it because like he knew who was.
But I think the reason they didn't get him in is because there's currently a Venom series, and I think they didn't want to confuse branding there. Like, there's no real other clash, you know, because they're not making money off. Well, they're not currently making more Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, so it's fine for him to be there. There's no confusion. But if there's suddenly a different Venom, it just clashes with what they're doing.
On top of
there.
Tom Hardy, and now like the symbiote is in the universe too.
Yeah, well, let's get onto that. So, have you seen Let There Be Carnage, Venom 2?
I haven't seen the second one.
Okay,
I
so I saw that.
the ending. It's like, oh, where are we? We're in a different universe.
So
it's Jay.
At the end of Let There Be Carnage, Tom Hardy and Venom get sucked into the multiverse, and they end up in the MCU universe, and they see the news report from J. Jonah Jameson at the end of Far From Home, where they're reporting Spider-Man's identity, and then when at the post-credit scene of No Way Home, he's in a bar in that universe, and then because of the ending, he gets sucked back to his own universe, but part of the symbiote stays in the MCU, which does suggest that another Venom could come to the MCU.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about that? Because like, this is interesting because Sony does have their own Spider-Man universe that doesn't have Spider-Man.
Sony universe. Sony's Sony's universe of Marvel characters, whatever they're
It's
called.
Sony's universe of B Spider-Man characters,
grade,
but
yeah.
not Spider-Man. So they've got Venom is the main one, and then they're doing what's his name? The magic guy, Mephisto. Is it Mephisto? No. They're doing Kraven.
Kraven
but
the
I think-
Hunter.
let me just look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
You keep talking.
Yeah, so they're doing Kraven the Hunter with Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
The Venom stuff. They're probably going to make a third one, which could... Oh, and the fact that Tom Hardy went through that and, like, you know, at the end of Venom 2 and No Way Home, that could imply that he's, like, that could be a multiversal movie, maybe. I've seen rumors that Venom, like, Tom Hardy's Venom's going to fight Tom or could even fight Andrew. Like,
yeah.
Their versions of
Yeah, because
Spider-Man.
they're now... So it's Morbius that I was thinking of. Sorry, not
Morbius, yeah.
Mephisto.
That's right.
Yeah, there are rumors now that they are approaching Andrew Garfield to do a Sony Spider-Man.
Which I'd be really happy with.
I'd be happy with as
Yeah.
well. I don't know if Marvel will be happy with it, right? But like the renewed popularity of that character is there. But I just think, I mean, Sony's trying to do this Spider-Verse thing, but it's like, I don't know, it's just not that, it's not amazing. And they're trying to make it part of the MCU, but it's not, but now it kind of is. And I guess I'm open to those characters coming into the MCU, but I don't really care as much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, look, with the fact that Spider-Man, like, is still under Sony's belt, like, really anything they do could, you know, you could, like not, like, take away the multiverse stuff. It's, like, really, logically, they could totally, like, make a connection or something.
Yeah.
Like, not just, like, they can't reference the MCU, like, you know, point by point, but they can reference, you know, their movies that have been set in the MCU and whatnot. But
And I think I heard that Vulture from Homecoming, Michael Keaton's Vulture, is going to be in Morbius.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting. And it's funny that Michael Keaton is now like capitalizing on playing characters he's played in the past as nostalgia bursts and stuff.
Dude, like, was like one of the biggest actors. Then he had a bit of a fallout, and then he had a massive resurgence after Birdman,
which is a phenomenal movie.
One of my favorites.
And that movie is so meta as well.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is, it's about an actor who used to play a character called Birdman.
Yeah.
It's basically Michael Keaton used to play Batman, and now he's trying to reinvent himself in theater. So great kind of superhero. It's not a superhero film, but it's like a philosophical movie about a guy who played a superhero. So yeah, I like that the worlds are intersecting a bit. We do have some voice messages, so let's just do some voice messages from some of the listeners and some other important voices. So first up, Blake Pavey, comedian. He has sent in a voice message. Let's hear it.
Okay, my thoughts are, when I was driving to the cinema with my best mate who I'd seen Infinity War, Endgame, and all of these other Marvel movies with, I turned to him and I said, if anyone like claps or cheers in the middle of the movie theatre, I'm going to lose my shit, because I absolutely hate whenever any of that stuff happens. I just think you contain your excitement. But when Toby and Andrew showed up, I started clapping and cheering. Like, I could not contain like how excited I was. That was literally just the best cinema experience I've ever had. And I'm so glad that they didn't rely purely on nostalgia. They put those bits in there, but it was its own film as well, and they pulled it off perfectly. Like, we had so much hype, and they just exceeded it tenfold. So I loved it.
Thank you, Blake, for that. We also have one from Dave Lee of Dave Lee Down Under, the YouTube channel. Dave, thank you. Let us know your thoughts on No Way Home.
Hey, Mike. Dave Lee here, calling in with my quick thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home. As you know, I am over in the UK at the moment. The number one thing I said when I came over here, obviously because massive COVID spike at the moment, the number one thing I said was, there's no way I'm going into crowded spaces. You will absolutely not. No chance will you get me into a packed cinema. Spider-Man somehow got me into a packed cinema at the height of the pandemic. And it seems it got a lot of people out to the cinema, because this is the second highest opening movie of all time, ever, which I think is just absolutely insane. And this movie just kind of melding together like my childhood, my teen years, and my adult years into this big bundle of nostalgia was just so awesome. I loved this movie. This is when I saw Avengers Endgame, I came out thinking, that's it. The MCU is never going to deliver us anything that big ever again. We will never get a payoff this big. And somehow Marvel have delivered this like 2 or 3 years later with Spider-Man No Way Home. And this is an unprecedented film. This is something that I never thought would ever happen. It's not something I ever even dreamed would happen. I won't lie. I got very emotional during the movie. Multiple times was I tearing up. Not just like at the sad emotional moments, but during the happy moments, the big energetic moments. I was just overwhelmed with happiness. You know, it's crazy to think, you know, I was a 10-year-old kid just absolutely blown away by this original Spider-Man movie, and now here I am, a 30-year-old man crying in a cinema because Toby's back and Andrew's back and they're there with Tom. I don't know. I thought this movie was great. I really hope you loved it, and I hope your audience loved it as well. Thanks for having me on the show, sort of, in a roundabout way. I appreciate it, and Merry Christmas.
Let's talk a little bit more about the ending and the future of the MCU, because let's say, I mean, I don't think Andrew and Toby are going to appear again. I think this is a special moment for fans of Spider-Man.
Oh, definitely a one-off,
Yeah, and I think it was really important. And I mean, I know you were about to lead into something, but can I say, now though, I really do want to see interviews with Andrew and Toby talking about...
Me too.
Because now that it's not a secret, I'd love to just hear them talk about how it came together.
I need to just say this quickly before I go into what I was going to say. The one thing that I was like... I'm shattered that we'll never get to see is that the fact that, like, because, you know, they kept it a secret, because in my head I pictured, oh great, the red carpet, the premiere, so we're going to see all 3 Spider-Men, we're going to see Sam Raimi, Mark Webb and John Watts all together, like a little huddle, like, oh, we're together, you know what I mean, all the former stars of, like, not all the former stars, but you
the
know,
villains that are in it at least, yeah,
and maybe some other people who, like, you know, who were in older movies,
Kirsten Dunst or whatever,
exactly, but
so we won't, but they didn't go to the premiere, obviously, because
they
it would have ruined it.
Yeah, man, like...
which is so, like, it's so cool that they're such a big part of the movie, but they kept it a secret.
I know.
I mean, it was so obvious at the end. If you're on TikTok and, like, you'll see so many times where Tom Holland and Zendaya and Ned's actor, sorry, I don't know his name, are just...
Jacob something.
Are just deflecting the obvious things. Like, there's one where...
No, they're not in this movie.
There's actually one where I think it's Jimmy Fallon is interviewing them and Doctor Strange's...
Ben Cumberbatch,
yeah. And he shows them the part of the trailer where Lizard gets punched by no one. And he's like, so here, Lizard gets punched by the air. Who's that? And they're all just like, oh, that's just some debris from the building falling down. Or like, yeah, I think he just like flinches or something. And then I think Dr. Benedict Cumberbatch just goes, you know, Jimmy, with great power comes great contractual liabilities. Which, like,
that's so good.
Yeah, and there's heaps of moments like that. There's some where Tom Holland is actually like, yeah, so like I was a huge fan of the Toby and Andrew Spider-Man. So like to bring these characters back, like to bring this character back of Spider-Man, like he quickly corrects himself. But yeah, it was out there. So the end of the movie, we see Spider-Man in... Yeah, well, let's just talk about the end. Do you want to walk through what happens at the end?
So I was really happy with the ending. Like, I thought... Because especially it kind of left it in a place... Left a lot of breathing room for the character. Because, you basically, with the ending, you know, Toby kind of sacrifices himself, not in like for death, but like, you know, he's like, he goes, you know, make everyone forget me so all this just goes away.
That's not Toby, that's Tom, but yes.
It is one of the T's. But yeah,
Spider-Man 1, Peter 1.
Yeah.
Peter 1.
Fucking the British one of the British T.
Yeah. Okay, the British T, because Andrew Garfield is also British.
Yeah, but he's British A.
Yeah, he's British. Okay, continue.
But yeah, what the fuck was I talking about?
You were talking about the end. So
Cool.
Tom makes everyone forget
Yeah.
that he's Spider-Man so that everything goes away.
Yeah, and like he goes to May's grave, not even happy recognizes him. Like he talks about like, oh, Spider-Man thing, so people know about Spider-Man. And obviously
they don't know he's Spider-Man and they don't know him.
And you see him at the end walk into his own apartment, so he's kind of on his own. By the way, I just want to say quickly, I thought when he walked into the apartment, it was going to be the same apartment that Toby had. because you see the light like in him, like the older looking door and building. I thought it would have been the same.
Yeah, but it's a different New York. So,
Yeah.
like I didn't think that, but yeah, I get why.
Yeah, my friend, my best friend saw it and he said, "Man, I would have loved it if like Tom said, oh, thank you, Mr. Dickovich."
Oh yeah.
That would have been funny. But
Actually, can I just? Cause we're kind of just spitballing around.
Yeah.
Now. We're wrapping it up. But one thing that I did find really interesting that potentially paints them into a corner is that Norman says at one point,
yeah,
Oscorp doesn't exist here, which to me means that now, I guess they wouldn't, but now Green Goblin couldn't be really, well, it couldn't be Norman. There's other Green Goblins, but it couldn't be Norman Osborn in that universe.
Yeah, I guess the only way they could kind of retcon that is by saying, oh, but there's
Norm Corp.
There's Norm Corp or Osborne
Enterprises.
Industries exists in Chicago or another city or they're in London.
And the other thing is, sorry, before I go back to you, but James Franco doesn't appear in the film.
Yeah, understandably so.
Understandably, also kind of makes sense because he is mentioned because Ned says to Toby,
"Did you have a best friend?"
Did you have a best friend? And then Toby's like, "Yes, he died in my arms," which is funny. Is Ned a character in the comics?
I think he is. I don't know exactly the history of that character, but he definitely existed. No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
So Franco does not appear in the movie. And I'm just putting it down to they did it. One, Franco, as where he's at career-wise is in a bit of hot water. But also, just you'd have to add this whole other dimension of Norm and Harry working together because they're father and son, which just didn't need to be there. So it makes sense not to have him in the film. Again, if I had to pick him or Spider-Man 3's Eddie Brock, I probably would have chosen Eddie Brock. But
Same.
Get why they're both not there. But they're probably the only two villain omissions from the Raimi Spider-Man.
And Rhino wasn't in it. And I know Paul Giamatti.
He
Rhino
didn't
and
need
Goblin.
it.
Goblin would have, the amazing Spider-Man Goblin would have been not confusing, but it would have been...
It would have been too confusing, yeah. But
Yeah.
Rhino didn't need to be in it. He was just a epilogue kind of thing to show
Basically.
that Spidey was still going.
I know Paul Giamatti, because he had the most unique, because when all the actors were froze, because Danny DeHaan, who was the Goblin the Amazing, he said, no, these rumors are not true. Not one bit of it's true. I think...
Just didn't get asked.
Yeah. But, aside from Topher Grace's response, because he did a Reddit AMA, it was really funny. I can't remember it, but go look it up if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti's I thought was kind of the nicest, because he said, I was pretty happy with the way my character wrapped up.
Wasn't he in it for 2 minutes, literally?
Basically, dude probably got paid heaps.
Your character didn't wrap up. Your character didn't even begin, really.
But I think he phrases I'm accepting of my character's thing, which sounds which translated to I would have liked to be in it more, but I got paid, so.
There was, because The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was supposed to be the Sinister Six, which
Yeah.
kind of is almost what this was. But
Yeah.
so everyone's forgotten that Tom's Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He has that meeting with Zendaya and Ned in the cafe. They don't recognize him. They're both going into college. Wondering what you think happens moving forward. It could be as simple as, hey, Doctor Strange, can you do a reversal of that spell just for it could be that. Because I don't know, how I guess that's the premise of the next Spidey movie.
What worried me, I thought, are they writing him out? Is he going to be out of the MCU? Is this
maybe they bring in Miles or something.
Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, and obviously you see he's got a new costume. You can tell he's made it because he's got a sewing machine, and he's not relying on the Stark tech anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's his own person, and it shows the growth of the character, which I think is so cool. Because I know a lot of people were just he's Iron Man Jr. They're just giving him everything, especially in Far From Home. There was a bit of an overdose of that stuff. But I think this is the right direction for the character to go.
And you know what actually would be cool? Because it kind of gives them... I know they've confirmed there's going to be another Spidey movie.
Yeah.
But it kind of gives them permission to sleep on Tom Holland for a while. And then maybe in 5 years, they do the Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then in that, Tom Holland Spider-Man appears and goes, hey, I'm still here too, and helps Miles Morales. Maybe something like that would be cool. Cool ending. No post-credit scene. There's the mid-credit scene we spoke about. The post-credit scene is a trailer for Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Which does suggest that there will be more multiverse stuff.
The rumors I've heard is that they're gonna do basically the Fox stuff. So
Okay, so and that was the thing when WandaVision was airing early this year, everyone that was kind of the opposite of what happened with No Way Home, where everyone was saying that because they had the thing with Quicksilver being the same actor that played Quicksilver in the X-Men, the Fox X-Men, but it didn't end up being him. It was
Eric
it was,
Boner.
Yeah,
Boner.
it was that was really disappointing. But then everyone thought that was a fake out, and then thought Magneto, who is Scarlet Witch's dad, was going to be in the last episode. Did you hear those rumors?
I did hear stuff like that.
And then it didn't happen, and everyone was like, and that was kind of a thing of like, there were no promises, so you can't be disappointed that we didn't deliver. But then No Way Home, they kind of faked that out. Like they didn't promise anything but delivered. So is that kind of where the rumors are heading?
Yeah, what I've heard, the main rumor I've heard is that Patrick Stewart's Professor Xavier is going to appear.
Yeah.
Because, you know...
That'd be so good.
Man, that would be great. But yeah, Multiverse of Madness. So obviously now Disney has their hands on like the Fox stuff. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they got permission from other studios. Like, hey, can we have like Eric Bana as like, you know, probably not that stuff. I know, a bit of a stretch, but I'm saying...
Imagine if Edward Norton came back.
Hey guys, there's me and Mark Ruffalo. Oh.
But like, I think... I mean, we got to get something X-Men related in there. Like, that's where it felt like WandaVision was heading towards.
Yeah, so, I guess, I know what they said, or not they said, but, you know, they're pretty much, they want to have a break on the X-Men, because the last movie came out in 2019.
Yeah.
So, or 2020 if you count the New Mutants.
Yeah, which you don't.
Yeah.
Because that was terrible.
Yeah, but like the Fox X-Men closed in like 2019, so like they want to give them a few years. The rumors are that the first MCU X-Men movie is going to be dubbed The Mutants, and it's going to follow like the original like X-Men storyline from like the 60s. Like it's so not the modern version with like Wolverine, Storm, Beast, that stuff. Like I mentioned they'll bring him in, and obviously like they'll probably like, even regardless, they'll still bring in Wolverine because he's such an iconic character.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
That's my thinking of like 10 years from now, what's the next huge thing? And it's like they pay Hugh Jackman $50 million to just be a cameo as Wolverine again. Like, and he is in one of the MCU movies.
Yeah.
That's what, like, because he's said, like, I'm not doing Wolverine again, but like, I reckon that'll be it. Because sometimes I'm like, it wouldn't happen in like the Fantastic Beasts Harry Potter spin-off. It wouldn't happen in that. But I think if they ever do like another Harry Potter spin-off series set in the future, I reckon like getting Daniel Radcliffe back for like a, you know, Mandalorian season 2 when Luke Skywalker appears. I feel like one day Daniel Radcliffe will do that same kind of thing with Harry Potter.
Yeah, definitely.
Like okay. So there's Multiverse of Madness. We also have Thor: Love and Thunder coming out at some point after that, and then a couple more coming out as well. But I mean, maybe let's leave it here for now. But if you liked this, I won't announce it, but in 2022, I'm going to be repurposing a feed to do more of this kind of stuff as extra stuff. Pat will definitely pop in if he's interested. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. As always, if you want to support my stuff, patreon.com/RadioMike helps me pay Pat, helps me pay for the podcast. And yeah, let us know what you thought of No Way Home. I think, what would you give it out of 5?
Like a 4.5. Like
I gave it a 5.
Yeah,
I think it's the best movie I've seen this year.
Easily.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Any final words, Pat?
Thwip.
Okay. See you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll speak to you soon.
See ya.